So today I'm going to be telling you about the next set of assignments that you'll be starting on next week. And the first one, Critical Reading 1, will be due on Wednesday, December the 8th. And so it'll be important for you to get started on this. You need to choose one of the articles that you found in your literature search. Ideally, choose the one that you find most interesting and most central to your potential topic. And you're going to be taking that and analyzing the information in it. Now, it's absolutely pivotal, imperative that this is a primary research article. The critical reading assignment cannot be done on a secondary article. So if it looks like a review or any other form of summary article, then it cannot be used for the critical reading, because you must be able to identify the specific evidence in the paper. And that means that it has to be a primary article that is describing a research group's actual experiments. So once you choose a paper that you wish to analyze, then you will be completing the critical reading form. And so, as with well, actually, in this case, I really want for you to download the document from Brightspace and fill your answers in this document rather than writing it on a separate document. And this is what this is going to be asking you for is you've chosen your article, you have to cite the paper in CSE style. So immediately under here, you're going to be inserting the correct CSE style reference. And for most of you, I've already been over that style. If you're someone that we didn't have time to get to that in our meeting last week, you can find the style guide in the citation folder in the content on Brightspace. But please at least notice that it does say that you need to cite the paper in CSE style. So I'm looking to see that you're starting to do that correctly. Then it's asking you to evaluate what you think of the expertise of the authors. And so what it's asking you to do is go and find out more information about this particular authors. This requires researching the authors on the internet and citing the source of your information correctly. You need to sort of take, say, the first or last author on the paper and just do a Google search on them. You might have to put both the author and the affiliation in to get the right person. But look them up. Have they written a lot on this topic? Are they working at Harvard Medical School? You know, where have they published before? I don't expect you to get information on every single author in a 10-author paper, but for at least the first and last author, you should identify who that person is, where they're working, what their area of expertise is. So give me as much information as you can. This is sort of to show that you are looking into the credibility of the people that are providing the information. Now, it is possible that you won't be able to find anything. Any author that's from a American or European university or other, like Australian or something, it should be fairly easy to find the research institution or university that they're working at and get some information about them. However, if you've picked an article from a Asian university, Indian, they very often do not have web pages that follow the same kind of structure that we're familiar with in the West. And so it may be, in that case, hard to find information on the author. If you've really genuinely tried and you can't find anything, you can write in that space, that you searched around and you couldn't find it. But backing up, I suggest that you choose a paper that you can find the information. It will make you much more confident in what you're writing about it. Okay, so once you're fairly sure that you're working with a paper that you think the authors, the source of the information are credible, then you need to really read and deeply understand the paper, and you need to pick out certain aspects of it. You need to pick out the purpose, which is what are they trying to find out using this investigation? What's the research question? What are they interested in? And as it says, that's the situation at the beginning of the study. Before they do any work, what's known and what are they trying to investigate? And then I want you to pull out also the central thesis, which is at the end of the work, what do they conclude? What have they contributed to the knowledge in this? So you're sort of doing what's known at the beginning and then what's known at the end. Please note here that you must not plagiarize. Okay, you cannot go look for what you think is the most suitable sentence in the paper and cut and paste it into these sections, even if you put quotes. Okay? I do not want to be reading what the author says there. I want you to write what you think the purpose and the thesis is. This is all important part. In your paper, you must be writing in your own words. And this is you practicing taking information out of a scientific journal. And sometimes the language is difficult and stylized and so on. And even if it's a struggle for you, it is better for you to put your best attempt in your own words rather than just regurgitate what the authors have said. I will catch it. And you do not get credit for using somebody else's words. So just know that ahead of time. Everything you write must be original. So now, when you've got the purpose and the central thesis, you've got the beginning and the end, okay? But how do they get to the end? What is it that they do in their work that results in the end thesis? And what I'm looking for you to do is to break down the discussion of the experimental work into smaller little pieces of what do they claim and what's the evidence behind each claim. So for example, and I'm just completely making this off the top of the head, you might come across a figure that shows that in the fall, there was more rainfall in the forest of Southern Oregon than in the summer. Like I said, I'm making it very simplistic. Okay, so you could make a claim that there's a higher average rainfall in the autumn months than in the summer months in the forests of Central Oregon. That would be a claim. The evidence for that claim would be found somewhere in the paper. And so I would say something like, in figure 2, the researchers show that there is 16.8 millimeters of rain, average of 16.8 millimeters of rain in the autumn months, in comparison with only 8 millimeters of rain in the summer months. Okay, so you're going from a claim, what the overall claim is that might be more in the discussion, to the actual specific evidence. What is there in the paper that proves the claim? Okay, some people find this difficult to do. Other people seem to get it right away. There's a lot of things that you need to be careful of when you're doing this. One of my first pieces of advice is keep it simple. Okay, there is a tendency for students reading a paper It's a paper is complex. It has a lot of information in it. And so they pick out very broad, sweeping claims, which are hard to prove with a single piece of evidence. It's much easier to take something simple, like I said, with the rainfall in some of us is fall, a very simple thing, and give the evidence for it, demonstrating you sort of understand what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. So I want to give you some examples just so that it might help you see what it is that I'm getting at here. So I want to share something different. Okay, as always, my examples come directly from student submissions so that I can give specific examples. Okay, so students claiming that in this paper, exposing sheep to streptomycin as an antibiotic sprayed fields can result in bacteria that are resistant to multiple antibiotics. The evidence they cite for that is in Table 1. They report 92.6% of the streptomycin-resistant bacteria are also resistant to other antibiotics. This is a pretty good claims and evidence. They are making a claim. I would rather that they said the word exposing sheep to streptomycin fields did result. Okay, can is slightly contingent, but I'll accept it. But you see, they make a specific claim and then they pick out from the results a piece of evidence that directly relates to the claim that they made. And that's the important thing. These two have to be directly linked. Does the evidence prove what they've claimed? If it doesn't, then these are not a justifiable claims and evidence pair. Another one, I think from the same one. The percentage of antibiotic-resistant E. coli that naturally live in feces and navel cavities of sheep increased after grazing in fields sprayed with low concentration of streptomycin. Evidence. Their results showed the percentage of antibiotic-resistant E. coli increased from 15% to 44%. Okay. Again, that's clearly the evidence that goes with that claim. I would comment that the evidence there is not quite specific enough, and it's I would like them to say the results in Figure 2 show that the percentage of antibiotic-resistant E. coli in feces and nasal cavities of sheep increased in fields sprayed with low concentration from 15% to 44%. Just give a little bit more detail in the evidence. The evidence is assuming you understand the claim and put all the claim words in it. But it's fairly good. I mean, it's clearly that that student knows what the paper's telling him or her and is aware of how to justify that. Okay, let's go to another one. Claim. In clinical trials, treatment with anabolic steroids resulted in decreased hepatic excretory function. Evidence. There is some data suggesting that high doses increase diastolic blood pressure, whereas low doses fail to have a significant effect on diastolic blood pressure. Increases in diastolic blood pressure normalize within 6 to 8 weeks after abstinence. Okay, so many criticisms here. Number one, these are both in quotes, so I'm presuming that these are cut and pasted from the article, and thus do not count as student work anyway. But even given that, you see the claim, clinical trials, treatment with anabolic steroids resulted in decreased hepatic excretory function. What's that? That's the kidney output, right? Hepatic excretory function. So, no, it's liver, sorry. It would have been renal if it was excretory. It's liver excretory function. So what is all of this information about high doses increase diastolic blood pressure, whereas low doses fail to... This has nothing to do with the claim. It may well be that they are reporting that there's a change in blood pressure, but that's not what's being claimed. Okay, so the student literally just taking these sentences and not really understanding at all what is being given to them in the paper, and so this took a lot of going back over. Claim: secondary treated wastewater products provide essential nutrients for crops. Evidence: there's a noticeable amount of increases in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Again, these two things are not really linked as claimed as evidence. They're sort of in the same kind of thing, but the evidence, there is a noticeable amount of increase in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It doesn't tell me anything about where this noticeable increase is. I don't know, it could be an increase in the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in my lunch. I mean, it gives no specific information. It may well be that if that evidence sentence was written correctly, it would provide evidence for the claim. But as written, it's just, I don't know. I mean, that's way, way, way too vague. Okay, another mistake that people often make is illustrated in this particular example. So the claim: research done in this article will aid commercial farmers in their decision to choose treated wastewater over groundwater for irrigation purposes. Evidence: there's a need to conserve and protect the groundwater for human consumption and instead use the wastewater for irrigation. Okay. I hope that when you read these, you'll see immediately that that is evidence is not evidence. It is another claim. Okay. Do not repeat your claim in your evidence. Okay. The evidence must be the data that proves the claim. It cannot be just restating the claim in different words. Just because you say it twice doesn't make it better proven. Okay? We need the evidence. Another criticism I would give of this is this research done in this article would aid commercial farmers in their decision to choose. That is very, very, very vague. How do you, if I say you're making a claim and you've got to be able to measure it, how do you measure the aid that the article gives to commercial farmers? Okay, it's not something that is easily measured, and so generally that's a very poorly written claim in terms of this exercise. You want your claims and evidence to be very clear, very cut and dried. In more advice in that direction is, do not use words like may or could. You know, saying that a particular treatment could help in decreasing the symptoms of Alzheimer's, you can't prove that with evidence. Okay? If you're going to make a claim, it needs to be a claim that is testable. And contingent words like could, may, can are not testable. I understand I'm pushing you into saying, giving a strength to your claims that may not be actually present in the paper, and that the authors themselves may make a bunch of contingent claims. But in this case, I'm actually asking you just to pick out a very small claim and a very small piece of data. So you should be able to zero in on things that they are sure of, rather than getting into the big, broader, and more contingent parts of the information. Okay, so need you to have read one of your articles sufficiently well to be able to do this exercise. Do this exercise and hand it in on Wednesday. When we talk on Thursday, I will not have had time to grade them, but I will be able to pull them up and we can look at them and we can see if you're on the right track. This exercise, if people have really serious trouble with it, I do often give a chance to redo if you want to redo for a better grade, if it turns out that you've struggled with it. So I say again, make sure that you're doing this on a primary article. It must be primary, or you can't find the evidence that you're going to need. Try to pick out small claims with small pieces of evidence for the claims evidence part. And the purpose and thesis statements will be much broader. The claims evidence can be small. So I hope you find this easy. If you have a specific question about this article, this assignment, please feel free to email me. And otherwise, we'll see how it goes, and we'll see you Thursday. Okay, so let's stop recording.